The scream came first, sharp and thin, cutting through the quiet morning like a broken note. It echoed across the wide savanna, rolling over the yellow soil and fading into the pale blue sky. Birds lifted from the ground in a sudden burst of wings, and dust rose where something small ran in fear. For a brief moment, the land that had been calm only seconds before felt shaken, as if it had felt the pain itself. Somewhere out there, a life was already in danger, though no one could yet see what was happening. Then, as if the wind itself had turned back time, the scene slowly softened. The harsh sound of fear faded into the gentle rustle of dry grass and the low hum of morning insects. The African savanna stretched wide and open under the rising sun, its yellow soil glowing warmly as light spilled across the cracked ground. Shadows were long and soft, and the air was cool with the promise of another hot day ahead. This was the world before the scream, before fear took hold. A small hyena moved carefully across the open land. He was young, not fully grown, and his thin legs carried him with quick, nervous steps. His fur was dusty and uneven, marked by old scratches from fights over food. He had wandered away from his clan at dawn, driven by hunger and the hope of finding scraps left behind by stronger animals. Every few steps, he stopped and lifted his head, his dark eyes searching the empty space around him. His ears twitched at every sound, catching the whisper of the wind and the soft crack of the dry soil under his paws. The yellow ground felt warm even in the early light. Each step sent up a small cloud of dust that drifted behind him, clinging to his fur. The smell of the earth was dry and sharp, mixed with the faint scent of old blood from a hunt that had taken place far away. The hyena's stomach tightened as he walked, empty and aching. He was not strong enough to hunt on his own, and the larger predators had pushed him aside too many times. Still, he kept moving, guided by a quiet hope that something would be left. For him, far across the savanna, a male lion lay on a low ridge of hard ground. His golden mane caught the sunlight, glowing softly like fire around his broad face. He was resting, but not fully asleep. His chest rose and fell in slow, steady breaths, and his amber eyes were half open, watching the wide land below him. The ridge gave him a clear view of everything that moved, and nothing escaped his notice for long. Even in rest, he was a ruler of this open world. A gentle breeze passed over the ridge, stirring the lion's mane and carrying the scent of dust and dry grass. He lifted his head slightly, sensing the quiet shift in the air. The savanna was peaceful, but there was a strange stillness beneath it, like the pause before a storm. His tail flicked once against the ground, slow and thoughtful as his eyes scanned the yellow plains. The small hyena did not see the lion. He was too focused on the ground in front of him, sniffing for any sign of food, a broken bone, a piece of hide, anything that could keep him alive for one more day. He moved toward a shallow dip in the land where the soil was more cracked and dry. Tiny lines ran across the surface like broken glass, and the ground looked weak, almost hollow beneath his paws. The wind grew quieter there, and the air felt heavy. The hyena hesitated, a soft growl leaving his throat as a warning to himself. But hunger pushed him forward. He took another step, then another. Unaware of what waited below, deep under the yellow soil, something was slowly moving. A long, thick body pressed against the hard earth, feeling every vibration from above. The giant snake had been resting beneath the surface, hidden from the burning sun. Its dark scales were cool against the dirt, and its muscles were coiled, tight, ready to strike. It had not eaten in days, and every sound from the surface was a promise of food. The hyena's small paws sent faint tremors through the ground. To him, the land felt solid. To the snake, it felt like footsteps echoing through a thin wall. The creature's tongue flicked in the darkness, tasting the air that seeped through tiny cracks. It knew something was near. Something alive. Above, the hyena stopped and lowered his nose to the ground. There was a smell there he did not like, a deep, cold scent that made his skin prickle. He pulled back slightly, his ears flattening. For a moment, he considered turning around. But then he saw something pale sticking out of the dirt, a small piece of bone from an old kill. It was not much, but it was enough to pull him forward. He stepped closer, paw reaching out. The ground exploded. Yellow soil burst into the air as a huge, dark shape shot upward. The giant snake broke through the cracked earth in a rush of power, its thick body twisting and rising in one smooth, terrifying motion. Before the hyena could even cry out, coils wrapped around his small body, lifting him off the ground. His scream was sharp and full of panic. Dust filled his mouth as he struggled, his legs kicking wildly in the air. The snake's muscles tightened, pressing the breath from his chest. He could feel the cold, smooth scales against his fur, crushing him inch by inch. Far away, on the ridge, the lion's head snapped up. The scream carried on the wind, cutting through the stillness. His eyes locked onto the moving cloud of dust in the distance. He stood slowly, powerful muscles shifting beneath his golden fur. Something was wrong. The hyena fought with all the strength he had, but he was no match for the giant snake. His vision began to blur as the pressure grew. The sky spun above him, and the bright sun turned into a painful white light. He could feel his heartbeat in his ears, fast and weak. The lion took a step forward, his gaze fixed on the distant struggle. The calm of the morning was gone now, replaced by a deep tension that pulled at his instincts. The savannah seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. And as the dust continued to rise around the trapped hyena, the wide yellow plains no longer felt peaceful. They felt like a stage where something terrible was about to unfold. The world was already shaking when the lion began to run. Dust hung in the air like a gray cloud, and the sharp cries of the hyena cut through everything else. The sound was not just fear. It was a call for help, thin and broken, rising above the open savannah. From the low ridge, the lion's powerful body moved forward, each step sending small waves through the yellow soil. His eyes were locked on the chaos ahead, where something dark and twisting was wrapped around, something small and helpless. The giant snake had burst from the ground so fast that even the wind seemed to freeze. One moment the hyena had been standing on cracked yellow earth, and the next he was lifted into the air, trapped inside thick, crushing coils. Dust flew upward in a wide ring, and sunlight flashed across the snake's smooth, dark scales. They shone like wet stone, cold and strong, as they tightened around the struggling body. The hyena's legs kicked weakly, and his small jaws opened in a silent cry when his breath was pushed out of him. For a heartbeat, everything felt too loud. The wind roared, the dust swirled. The snake moved with slow, heavy power, wrapping more of its body around the hyena as if it were nothing more than a piece of grass. The savannah, which had been so calm only moments before, now looked like a battlefield of yellow soil and rising shadows. But just before the lion reached the edge of the chaos, the story seemed to pull back in time, like a breath being taken. Before a shout, the harsh noise softened, and the bright glare of the sun faded into a warm glow. Only a short time earlier, the land had been peaceful. The small hyena had been walking alone, his paws leaving light prints in the yellow dirt. He had been hungry but hopeful, moving through the quiet morning with careful steps. The air had been cool then, and the wind had carried only the smell of dry grass and old earth. Now, all of that was gone. The snake's coils tightened again, and the hyena's body jerked as he tried to pull free. His fur was already covered in dust, and his eyes were wide with fear. Every breath came in short, painful gasps. The sun was too bright, the sky too far away. All he could feel was the cold strength of the snake pressing against him from every side. From the ridge, the lion watched the struggle. His heart beat fast inside his strong chest, and his breath came deeper as he ran. Predators were not meant to help prey. That was the rule of the wild. But something about the hyena's cry had broken through that rule. It was not the sound of an enemy. It was the sound of a life slipping away. As the lion moved closer, he slowed just enough to think. The snake was huge, larger than anything he had faced alone. Its body moved with steady, unstoppable force. Attacking it would be dangerous, but standing still would mean watching the hyena disappear forever beneath those dark coils. The lion's paws dug into the yellow soil as he came to a stop a short distance away. Dust rose around his legs, and the heat of the sun pressed down on his back. His amber eyes met the snake's dark, unblinking gaze. For a moment, the two predators faced each other in silence, the hyena trapped between them. The snake did not care who was watching. It only knew hunger. Its body tightened again, and the hyena's movements grew slower. A weak sound escaped his throat, more like a breath than a cry. The Savannah seemed to hold its breath with him. Then the lion moved. He did not rush in with wild anger. He stepped forward with calm strength, his body low, his muscles ready. A deep growl rolled from his chest, not loud but full of warning. The sound was meant for the snake, telling it that it was no longer alone in this fight. The snake lifted part of its body, turning its head toward the lion. Its dark eyes reflected the bright sky, and its long form shifted slightly, still holding the hyena tight. Dust fell from its scales as it moved, drifting down like slow rain. The lion took another step. His paws left deep marks in the yellow soil. His tail flicked once, slow and steady, as he focused on the snake's movements. He was not thinking of hunting. He was thinking of timing. One wrong move could cost him everything. The hyena's eyes met the lion's for just a moment. There was no hope in them, only fear and exhaustion. But that was enough. The lion felt a strange pull inside his chest, something close to the feeling a mother has when her young is in danger. It made no sense, but it was real. With a sudden burst of power, the lion lunged forward. He did not aim for the snake's head. He aimed for its thick body, where its grip was strongest. His jaws closed around a section of dark scales, and he pulled with all his strength. The snake reacted at once. Its body twisted, and part of its coils loosened as it tried to turn and face this new threat. The hyena fell a few inches, landing hard on the yellow soil, but he was still partly trapped. He gasped for air, his chest rising and falling fast as he felt the pressure ease just a little. The lion held on, his muscles shaking as he fought against the snake's power. Dust swirled around them, and the sunlight caught in the moving shapes, turning the struggle into a blur of gold and dark shadow. The snake hissed softly, a low sound of anger, and tried to tighten its grip again. But the lion did not let go. With one more strong pull, he forced the snake's coils to slip. The hyena rolled free, tumbling onto the ground. He lay there for a moment, still and shaking, as if he could not believe he was no longer trapped. His sides moved fast as he drew in fresh air, each breath sounding like a small miracle. The snake, now facing the lion, slowly began to pull back. It did not want this fight anymore. Hunger had been replaced by danger. Its long body slid over the cracked yellow soil, leaving dark lines behind as it moved away. Dust settled where it had been, and the air grew quiet again. The lion stood still, watching until the last part of the snake disappeared into the earth. Only then did he turn his gaze back to the hyena. The small animal was still lying on the ground, weak and covered in dust, but alive. He slowly lifted his head, his eyes meeting the lion's once more. There was no fear in them now, only a quiet, tired wonder. The Savannah grew calm again. The wind returned, soft and gentle, brushing over the yellow soil as if trying to smooth away what had happened. In the wide open land, two animals stood in silence, connected by a moment that had broken all the rules of the wild. The lion was already moving when the ground still shook from the snake's last twist. Dust hung in the air like a thin fog, and the light of the sun broke through it in soft golden beams. The hyena lay on the yellow soil, breathing fast, his small body rising and falling as if every breath was a fight. The giant snake slid backward, its dark shape pulling away, but its eyes were still fixed on the lion. For a moment, it felt as if the whole savannah had stopped to watch what would happen next. The lion stood tall, his mane glowing in the light. His chest moved slowly as he took in the hot, dusty air. He did not roar again. He did not chase. He simply stayed there, calm and strong, like a wall that could not be passed. The snake seemed to understand. Its long body slipped back toward the cracked earth, each slow movement leaving a mark in the yellow soil. Then, little by little, it disappeared, until only a faint line in the dirt showed where it had been. Silence fell, not the quiet of sleep, but the deep stillness that comes after danger. The wind moved gently across the plain, brushing over the dust and carrying away the last sign of the struggle. The sky was wide and bright, and for a moment it felt strange that something so calm could sit over something so close to loss. The hyena lifted his head. His eyes were tired and dark, but they were clear. He looked at the lion, and for a long second, neither of them moved. There was no fear in the lion's face, and no anger. There was only a quiet watchfulness, like he was making sure the danger was truly gone. The hyena tried to stand. His legs shook, and he sank back down, a small sound leaving his throat. The yellow soil stuck to his fur, and a soft cloud of dust rose around him. The lion took one slow step closer, not in threat, but in care. He kept his head low, his body relaxed. He did not touch the hyena. He only watched. With a slow push, the hyena tried again. This time he stayed on his feet. He wobbled, but he did not fall. His breathing was still fast, but it was steady. He looked once more at the lion, as if trying to understand what had just happened. Predators were not meant to save prey. That was the old rule of the wild. Yet here he was, alive because a lion had chosen to stand in the way. The sun began to lower in the sky, turning from bright white to warm gold. Long shadows stretched across the yellow soil, and the land took on a softer look. The heat of the day slowly faded, and the air grew cooler. Somewhere far away, birds called, and the savannah felt alive again. The hyena took a small step, then another. Each move was careful, as if he was afraid the ground might break beneath him again. The lion stayed where he was, giving him space. He did not follow. He did not look away. He simply let the moment be what it was. As the hyena walked, his steps grew a little stronger. He moved toward the glowing edge of the land, where the sun touched the horizon and painted the sky in deep orange and pink. The light wrapped around his small body, making him look almost like a shadow moving through fire. Once, he stopped and looked back. The lion was still there, a dark shape against the golden land. Their eyes met one last time. Then the hyena turned and kept going. For a while, the lion stayed where he was. The dust slowly settled around his paws. The savannah, which had been loud and wild only moments before, was now quiet and wide. The smell of earth and warm grass filled the air. The lion breathed it in, feeling the steady beat of his heart slow back to its normal rhythm. A memory moved through his mind, though it had no words. A memory of small, helpless life. A memory of something worth protecting. It was the same feeling that made a mother stand between danger and her young. The lion did not question it. He only felt it deep and simple. As the sky darkened, the stars began to appear, one by one. like small lights waking up in the blue. The savannah looked endless beneath them. Somewhere out there, the hyena was walking on, each step carrying him farther from the place where he had almost been lost. The lion finally turned away. He moved back toward his ridge, his steps slow and sure. The yellow soil felt firm beneath his paws. The wind touched his mane, lifting it gently, as if the land itself was speaking a quiet thank you. By the time he reached the ridge, the sun was nearly gone. The world was filled with soft shadows and warm colors. A day's heat had left, and a cool calm had taken its place. The lion lay down, his body stretching out as he settled into the familiar ground. His eyes stayed open, watching the fading light. Far away, the hyena paused on a small rise. The land below him was painted in gold and red, and the sky above was deep and wide. He felt tired, but he also felt something else. He felt safe, at least for now. He lowered his head and let out a soft breath, the sound almost lost in the open air. The savannah had seen many acts of hunger and fear. It had seen lives taken and lives lost. But this moment was different. This moment was one of choice. A choice that had turned danger into hope. As night slowly covered the land, the memory of what had happened stayed behind, like a quiet mark on the yellow soil. The lion lay still, the hyena walked on, and the wild world kept turning, carrying with it the truth that even in the hardest places, mercy can rise when it is least expected.